Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to Opus Magnum with Lyte. Today, we're looking at Very Dark Thread. Sorry I've missed out on a lot of videos I should have made. Things have been going on. Streaming, life things. It's all good. But now we're back. Back with more Opus Magnum. I would like to make more than one episode of this a week, but we'll see how it goes. And this has an infinite product, and they fixed the infinite product counting, which is really quite nice. And so this first one, we're just looking at making a nice, cheap piston variation where we just grab it, swing it around, push it around. One piston, cheap, but never quite cheap enough, it seems. Because whenever you try to use a piston, you can probably do it cheaper with just a fixed arm and a track. And that is true in this case as well. And so we just swing it around, swing, swing, swing. Let's do it a little faster. A little bit faster now. Everybody, yeah, a little bit faster now. And so we managed to make our relatively infinite product. Granted, it's only 6, but it's potentially infinitely low. Costs 80 Gs, top percentile is 75. So what can we do to make it 75? Well, like I said, you just use a solid arm and a track. Now, you'll be looking at this going, like every other time you want to replace a piston, all you used was 2 pieces of track. Can't you get this down to 70? Well, I personally have not been able to. It might be possible. Entirely likely that it is possible, and if you've done it, feel free to share it with us down in the comments on Twitter or on our Discord. Link to the Discord down in the doobly-doo. But unfortunately, with this one, trying to swing this iron around, if we move this air here or like shorten this by 1, they're pretty much equivalent, it runs into this air when we try to swing it in. Bunk! And it's just no good. So the best I've been able to do is this. We've got a little holding area for our product. We build the next piece. We link this on, shove it into position, and then move it out of the way such that we can build the next thing and use this as a waiting area up here. And so this is pretty darn cheap, 75. If somehow you can shave this track down by 1, you can get it down to 70. I haven't found a way. So that's cost. Next up is size. We start with shove. Using up the least amount of space involves pushing it onto this infinite amount. Any swinging will use up a lot of space. So we go back to using our good friend, the piston, and hope that everything will be fine. But, well, there's a serious problem with this particular solution. And that's empty space right here. And empty space is always your enemy. Any empty hex is a hex you might be able to do without. And so in this particular case, you might want to save on, in particular, these 3. These 3 right here are clearly problematic. Now, originally I thought maybe just moving the salter over here might save you. Like, you move the air here, shift these 2 over into here, and then put the salter here, will save you space. It does, but it only saves you 1. And it's more important that you shave off these 3 in their entirety. So there's a little thing in Shiv here that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, where I rotated these clockwise and put the air out here and this stuff here. Well, that was because I originally had this glyph of calcification over here, and it wasn't as efficient as just slicing out those 3 hexes altogether. So you don't really need to have this rotated out. You could put the lead here, the quicksilver and whatnot here, and then the air here. Same overall space. But this one is a little bit weird in that when you end one iteration, it's not lined up properly. That it doesn't line up on the exit at the end of any given cycle. It's actually right before the end of the cycle where it actually lines up and gives you your product. So for just a moment, it was right here. And that's why we have one product, even though it isn't lined up at all. So this while effective in the game, seems a little sketchy if this were an actual machine, because yes, you're using up less space, but you're not delivering it to the exit properly. Not really. I'm a little on the fence about the reliability of this one, but it's 53 area, top percentile is 55. We're doing all right. So we've got top percentile money, better than the cutoff for area. So let's check out the cycles. Now, this one, we have a little bit of a progression where we start with above and below here, where I'm like, I just don't know where to start. So let's just build the thing. And so that's what we do. We create a salt that just travels down the middle. We've got the iron coming down below and up above. No weird shenanigans with making bits and twisting them. We just make a nice, straightforward solution that pulls as fast as we are able to from this quicksilver and then generates the appropriate product. 64 is okay, but it's by no means as fast as we can get this done. And so how do you make things go faster? Well, you move it closer. Cutting back on the area works not just for the area metric, but also sometimes for the speed. So instead of having this over by 1, we bring it in closer and we bring the product onto it as quick as we are able. We also narrowed down the space in here by a little bit. And so we increase the speed at which we bond everything together. And we've got this little extra bit that pushes it onto the exit and then pulls it back to make it ready for the next binding. But it's still got that fundamental above and below aesthetic. We also put the salter in the middle because salting on the way to the binding, rarely a good idea. And so how do we make this better? Well, previously, prior to the infinite counting issue fix, what we do is we put an extra salt on the end. By having that extra salt, we have the extra bond, and it would have measured the first product as being there when the first product actually got there. But thanks to the update, these two now have the same exact cyclage, because it doesn't matter if you've got that first bond on there or not. So now we don't have to worry about doing any sort of fake iron or fake this, fake that, extra bond nonsense. You just build it the way you're supposed to build it, and it counts it the way it was probably supposed to count it from the beginning. But when you take a look at these, many times in the past I've talked about checking how long it takes the last atom to get to the exit. And that's true of this one as well. So what we need to do is take a look at the second iron. The first iron is fine. If it gets there, it gets there. It's the second iron that we're concerned about. And so we need to measure how long does it take for the second iron to get there, because our pattern is 2 salt, 2 iron. The salt, perfectly fast. We could get 3 there if we needed. But the iron takes a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps. 8 steps to get to the exit is too many. That's just flat out, undeniably too many steps. So what do? Well, we rethink our entire approach, focusing on how can we get the iron there as fast as possible. And so what we've got is our second iron right here going a 1, a 2, a 3. That's right, 3 licks to the center of that Tootsie Pop. Other pops available. And so with those 1, 2, 3, so long as everything else beats it there, or at least meets it there, you're gonna do just fine, because you've got your iron. It has to be bound twice and then moved to the exit. That's as good as you're really gonna be able to do. And then all you need to do is make sure that everything else works and you're good to go. So the real question becomes, well, how do you make the rest of it work? So our first iron gets bound to a salt, brought down to the general fixing area. Salt is very simple. You just move it across, bind it to the iron. It is the same motion each time because we've got 2 iron salt pieces, which we build independently, fuse together, and then move into the final product. Okay, so we've got 8 here and 4 that do the heavy lifting. So 8 brings it over, shifts it down into a good position. 4 is ship-a-bam, good to go. And then the last bit, always the tricky middle bit, making it actually work in your infinite setup. And so 4 needs to hand it off to one of these pistons. Pistons push it out, and again, shift it over, and then swing it into place. And then let it go, because their job is now done. It just needed to get that done before Arm 4 arrives. Now, you can likely do it more efficiently. You might be able to do it cheaper. You might be able to do it by using less space. But right now, I'm focused on maximum speed. And the only thing that's really holding us back with the speed is how quickly we can get that second iron into position. We generate it as fast as possible, then move it 1, 2, 3. That's as good as I am confident you're able to do. If you've got something better than 51, oh boy, would I love to see it. But they fixed the counting issue, so you don't have to worry about those exploit solutions anymore. And, well, all in all, this is an interesting puzzle, because if you do it the most straightforward way, you get a decent speed. If you optimize it a little bit without going too crazy, you still get a very respectable speed. Because we got to 54, or 56, 56, with a reasonable setup that just seems like something that you might want to do. Because when you've got an infinite product, you want to extrude it straight out. You don't want it swinging about. Thinking realistic type machines. You don't want to extrude it in such a irresponsible manner as my fastest solution. This is really what you should be making. But, again, it's a game. Not every solution is really going to be the end-all, be-all of reality. And so here we are with our very dark thread going really quite quickly. So all that stuff, again, we've got our 75 cost, got our 51 cycles, and our 53 area. Thank you for watching this episode. I would like to make these at least twice a week, but I can't make any promises. So I will see you in the next episode of Opus Magnum with Lyte.